Later that afternoon, Miles and Niles were summoned to the principal's office. Don't worry, they weren't in trouble. It was a Monday, which meant it was time for a school helper check-in. A weekly meeting Niles had invented as part of the duties of a position Niles had also invented. Does he have to be here? Principal Barkin nodded towards Miles, who stood next to a wastebasket with a pad and pencil in his hand. Miles is our school helper, said Niles, referring to another position he'd invented. He takes minutes now, which frees up the minute-taking part of my brain for additional responsibilities. I suppose, said Principal Barkin. Principal Barkin, said Miles, a little more than a year ago, you asked Niles to teach me everything he knew about being a great student, and I think we'd both agree that what Miles has to teach could fill up a lifetime. I honestly believe I've grown as a student and human since you wisely assigned him to be my school buddy. Principal Barkin grunted. The kid had a point. It had been a wise decision, one of his many wise decisions, and it was clear that the Miles Murphy standing in his office was a great deal better than the Miles Murphy who first walked through the doors last fall. His posture was straighter. His speech was more respectful. Since his hair might be a little mussed from Principal Barkin's liking, and those t-shirts, Principal Barkin wasn't sure about those t-shirts. First order of business, said Niles. The first graders made a papier-mâché cow in art class, and Miss S thinks we should put it in the school entrance. Of course, said Principal Barkin. It's adorable. Shows bovine pride. Approved. Right. Item 2. Some of the drinking fountains are barely shooting water out at all, which leads to students putting their mouths directly on the metal. And with flu season fast approaching, I'm sorry, said Principal Barkin. I need to talk about the violence. Niles nodded. Of course. Barkin held up a yellow legal pad covered in scrawls. I've been trying to work out who could have done it. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Josh. But I think that camp this summer has helped. Exercise. Whatever got into him last year. Niles' nod was sympathetic without expressing agreement. Now, this next one might be a little bit awkward, said Principal Barkin. He whispered, What about Miles? What? Said Miles. I was hoping you wouldn't hear that, said Principal Barkin. This is just one reason I would have preferred that he not be at this meeting. It wasn't me, said Miles. Barkin sighed. The Miles Murphy motto. But no, I don't think it was either. Last year's Miles definitely. But current Miles, the Miles standing in front of me, I don't think so. A principal must trust his instincts, and my instincts are excellent. Which brings me to Stuart. Said Niles. Yes, said Principal Barkin. Precisely what I was thinking. I'll write that next to his name here. Stuart. What about Holly? Oh, no, I don't think so, Niles said quickly. She doesn't seem to have much respect for authority. She's the president of our class. The perfect cover. I'm going to write, next to her name too. Maybe with an extra M. I wouldn't use an extra M. I already did. What about Scotty? I don't know much about Scotty, said Niles. Neither do I, said Principal Barkin. And yet, he always seems to be around. Very strange. Very strange indeed. 6 m's. Said Principal Barkin. He crumpled up the piece of paper, tossed it at the wastebasket, and missed, hitting Miles. This is no good, he bellowed, looking up at his ceiling fan. This is no good, he bellowed, looking up at his ceiling fan. This is no good at all. We are in the middle of a prinking epidemic. I cannot have these challenges to my power. This school runs on power, not electrical power. I mean, obviously, the school runs on electrical power, literally. But, metaphorically, the school runs on my power. Principal power. My power powers this school, metaphorically. Just as electricity literally powers that fan. The fan squeaked, but did spin. Which reminds me, could we get Gus to come in and look at this fan? I'm not sure it should be squeaking like that. Miles wrote it down. Have Gus check on fan. I'm sorry you had to see that outburst, boys, said Principal Barkin. It's a peek at what it's really like to have immense power. It's not all pumpkin spice and candy corn. Principal Barkin sometimes liked to keep his metaphors seasonal. Maybe one day you too will understand. When you're powerful, principals like I am. Although you won't be principals exactly like I am. Since my son Josh will be principal of his school and of this school, and Miles, if I'm being honest, you probably don't have what it takes to be a principal. Anyway, great power, it means you answer to nobody, only yourself. And it can be hard to look directly at yourself, especially when yourself is so powerful, like staring into the phone on Principal Barkin's desk buzzed, and the school secretary's voice came from the speaker. Phone call for you, Principal Barkin. It's your father. interrupted, Barkin did not grow purple. Instead, he went pale. "Put him through," he said, then picked up the receiver. "Barry, this is your father, former Principal Barkin." Miles and Niles could hear his voice from where they stood. "Am I interrupting something?" "Actually, yes," said Principal Barkin. "I'm in a meeting with—" "Well, why are you letting me interrupt you? A principal should never be interrupted. That's one of the 7 principles of principal power. The 3rd principle, in fact. Which means it's one of the 3 most important ones. If, Father, you do not interrupt me," said former Principal Barkin. "I will not be interrupted. Did you see that? Even as a former principal, I'm more of a principal than you are. And speaking of not being much of a principal, what is this I hear about a prank during today's all-school photograph?" "How did you hear about that?" "That is not the question," said former Principal Barkin. And the answer to that non-question is that a good former principal maintains his secret sources. Was it Mr. Yeager? Yes, but that is not the point. Now, here is what is the question. The question is, how could you let this happen? Well, the all-school photograph is a historic document. I know, and this year the all-school photograph will record a spectacular prank, which is an affront to power and to the Barkin name, which is synonymous with power. Yes, and do you know what the sad thing is, Barry? The sad thing is that maybe this year's photograph, which records an affront to power, is historically accurate. Because I hear from my secret source, you have been a lot, that there has been a lot of pranks lately. An epidemic. I don't know if I'd use the term epidemic. Oh, let's see. A teacher's desk fastened to the ceiling. A class turtle painted blue. And then, of course, the business last year with the cows, which is too embarrassing to mention. You actually interrupted my investigation. I didn't call to hear excuses. I called to let you know that, according to other secret sources. And I hope it is clear that I maintain many secret sources. Your leadership, or lack thereof, will be the main topic of the school board meeting this Wednesday. What? That is all. Give Josh and Sharon my love. For a few seconds, Principal Barkin was too stunned to hang up the phone. When his eyes refocused, he saw Niles and then Miles, who were too stunned to not look stunned. "I probably should have asked you to leave while I took that call," said Principal Barkin. "Let's continue this meeting next week." Miles and Niles quickly left the office. They walked through the teacher's lounge and into the hall. It was a few minutes before either of them spoke, but eventually Miles asked a question. It was a question he never thought he would ask. "Niles," he said, "should we feel bad for Principal Barkin?" that is the end of chapter 4. Chapter 5. We will continue chapter 6.